in the bustling heart of New York City, where the skyscrapers pierced the sky like giants frozen in time and the streets hummed with the endless symphony of honking taxis and hurried footsteps, lived a man named Alex Thompson, a 35-year-old architect whose life was as structured as the blueprints he drafted every day in his cramped office overlooking Central Park. Alex had always been the type to blend into the crowd, his days filled with coffee runs, client meetings, and quiet evenings in his modest apartment with his golden retriever, Max, who was more family than pet after his divorce 2 years prior left him reeling from the shards of a broken marriage. But on that fateful autumn afternoon in 2015, as the leaves turned shades of amber and gold, Alex's routine shattered like glass underfoot when he decided to take a detour through the Brooklyn Bridge, seeking solace in the rhythmic sway of the iconic structure that had always calmed his racing thoughts. The bridge was alive with tourists snapping photos, cyclists weaving through the lanes, and joggers pounding the pavement, but amid the chaos, Alex noticed the lone figure standing perilously close to the edge, a young woman in her early 20s with windswept hair and eyes that held the weight of unspoken despair. Her name was Elena Ramirez, though Alex wouldn't learn that until much later. She was a struggling artist from a fractured home in the Bronx, battling the invisible demons of depression that had pushed her to this precipice, where the Hudson River below whispered promises of escape from the relentless pain of lost dreams and mounting debts. As Alex approached, drawn by an inexplicable pull, he saw her grip loosen on the railing, her body teetering forward as if the wind itself was urging her onward. Time slowed to a crawl, the world narrowing to just the two of them, a stranger to stranger. In that suspended moment of crisis, without hesitation, Alex lunged forward, his hand clamping onto her arm with the firmness born of pure instinct, pulling her back from the brink as she gasped in surprise, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and relief. "Hey, wait, don't do this," he shouted over the roar of traffic, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins like wildfire. Elena collapsed against him, sobs racking her slender frame as the reality of what she'd almost done crashed over her, and Alex held her there, a makeshift anchor in the storm, whispering words of comfort he didn't even know he possessed. "You're not alone. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. Just hold on." The minutes blurred as passers-by finally noticed and called for help, paramedics arriving in a flurry of sirens and concerned faces, whisking Elena away to safety while Alex gave his statement to the police, his heart still hammering from the near tragedy. He didn't stick around for thanks or recognition. He simply melted back into the city, returning to his apartment where Max greeted him with wagging tail and wet kisses, oblivious to the hero his owner had become. But that night, as Alex lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene in his mind, he felt a profound shift, a reminder that life was fragile, interconnected in ways we rarely see. Little did he know, this act of bravery would plant a seed that would bloom years later in the most miraculous way. In the days that followed, Elena entered therapy, her brush with death igniting a fierce determination to rebuild her life. She channeled her pain into her art, creating poignant pieces that captured the raw edges of human emotion, eventually landing her a spot in a small gallery show that kickstarted her career. Alex, meanwhile, threw himself deeper into his work, designing sustainable buildings that aimed to make the world a little better, but the memory of that day lingered like a quiet shadow, a testament to the power of one moment's choice. As the years ticked by, 2016 bringing Alex a promotion and a tentative new romance with a colleague named Sarah, while Elena moved to Chicago for an art residency, her gratitude toward her anonymous savior festering into a quiet vow to pay it forward. Their paths diverged like rivers splitting from a common source. Alex's life wasn't without its storms. In 2018, Sarah left him for someone else, plunging him back into solitude, and Max's health began to decline, the old dog's arthritis making walks a bittersweet affair. Yet, through it all, Alex held on to that bridge memory as a beacon, volunteering at local crisis hotlines on weekends, where he listened to voices on the edge, offering the same lifeline he'd given Elena. Elena, thriving in her new city, met a supportive partner named Miguel, a fellow artist who encouraged her to exhibit her work nationally, and together they built a life filled with color and creation. but she never forgot the man who pulled her back, searching online sporadically for any trace of him, her heart aching with unspoken thanks. By 2020, the world had changed, with the pandemic locking down cities, forcing Alex into remote work from his now echoing apartment, where isolation gnawed at his edges, and Elena adapted by hosting virtual art classes, her resilience shining through. As restrictions eased in 2021, Alex adopted a new puppy to keep Max company in his final months, naming her Luna as a nod to the moonlit nights he'd spent reflecting on life's twists. Elena's big break came in 2022 with the solo exhibition in Los Angeles, her pieces selling out and earning her acclaim for their emotional depth, inspired unwittingly by that pivotal day on the bridge. Alex, attending an architecture conference in the same city by chance, wandered into the gallery one evening, drawn by a painting that depicted a figure on a bridge, hand extended in salvation. It stopped him cold, stirring memories he'd long buried. He didn't connect the dots then, but fate was weaving its threads tighter. Back in New York, Alex faced his own health scare in 2023, a routine checkup revealing early signs of heart disease, a genetic ticking bomb from his father's side, prompting him to overhaul his lifestyle with gym sessions and healthier eating. Though the fear of vulnerability lingered, Elena, now a mother to a baby girl named Hope, felt her world expand with joy, but a nagging sense of unfinished business prompted her to hire a private investigator to find her savior. Using the scant details from police reports, the search bore fruit in early 2024, leading her to Alex's doorstep in a quiet suburb where he'd moved after selling his apartment. Knocking tentatively, Elena introduced herself, tears streaming as she recounted how his intervention had saved not just her life, but allowed her to build one worth living. Art, family, purpose, all stemming from that moment. Alex, stunned into silence at first, embraced her like a long-lost sister, the emotional floodgates opening as they shared stories over coffee. Max's successor Luna bounding around in excitement. The reunion was a catharsis, healing old wounds and forging a bond that transcended time. But life, ever unpredictable, had more in store. Later that year, Alex's heart condition worsened unexpectedly during a stressful project deadline, leading to a severe attack that landed him in the ER, fighting for breath as doctors rushed to stabilize him. In a twist of cosmic irony, Elena, visiting New York for an art show, heard the news through their newfound friendship network and raced to the hospital, her presence a soothing force amid the beeping machines and sterile walls. As Alex recovered, he credited her support with pulling him through the darkest hours. But the true salvation was yet to unfold in the chapters ahead. This chapter of beginnings and quiet heroes set the stage for a reciprocity that would redefine their lives, proving that kindness echoes eternally through the corridors of fate. Chapter 2. As the calendar flipped to 2025, Alex Thompson found himself navigating a world that felt both familiar and utterly transformed, his heart surgery from the previous year leaving him with a scar across his chest like a badge of survival, a constant reminder of how close he'd come to the edge once more. Not on a bridge this time, but in the cold grip of medical uncertainty. Now 45, with streaks of silver threading through his dark hair, Alex had reinvented himself post-recovery, leaving the high-pressure architecture firm to start a non-profit focused on urban green spaces, designing parks that offered respite to city dwellers much like the bridge had once been his sanctuary. Luna, his loyal companion, trotted beside him on daily walks, her energy a youthful contrast to his measured pace. And though romance had eluded him since Sarah, he found fulfillment in mentoring young architects and volunteering at the same crisis centers where he'd honed his empathy. Elena Ramirez, meanwhile, had blossomed into a renowned artist whose works graced museums from coast to coast, her family, a husband Miguel and daughter Hope, now a curious toddler with her mother's expressive eyes anchoring her in Chicago's vibrant art scene. Their friendship, born from that dramatic reunion, had deepened over video calls and occasional visits, with Elena often crediting Alex as the catalyst for her success, while he humbly deflected, insisting it was her strength that carried her through. But beneath the surface calm, shadows loomed. Alex's doctors warned of potential complications from his condition, advising regular checkups and stress management, yet the demands of his non-profit pulled him in endless directions, leaving little time for self-care. In spring of 2025, during a fundraising event in Chicago, Alex traveled to meet Elena in person again, their hug at the airport filled with the warmth of old souls connected by destiny. The event was a triumph, with Elena donating a painting inspired by their story, a swirling abstract of bridges and hands reaching across voids that fetched a record sum for Alex's cause. Over dinner that night, as Hope giggled from her high chair and Miguel shared tales of their latest adventures, Alex felt a pang of envy for the family life he'd never quite grasped, but it was overshadowed by gratitude for this unexpected bond. Little did he know, fate was about to test them once more. Returning to New York, Alex dove back into work, but a nagging fatigue set in, dismissed as post-travel exhaustion until one stormy evening in June, when chest pains struck like lightning during a late-night planning session alone in his office. Gasping for air, he collapsed, his phone tumbling from his hand as darkness encroached, the world fading to a pinpoint. Miles away in Chicago, Elena awoke from a vivid nightmare of bridges and falling figures, her intuition screaming that something was wrong as she texted Alex, receiving no reply, then called, the unanswered ring echoing her growing panic. Trusting her gut, she contacted his emergency contacts from their shared info, alerting neighbors who burst into his office to find him unconscious, rushing him to the hospital where doctors diagnosed a critical blockage, prepping him for emergency surgery that could go either way. Elena, without a second thought, booked the first flight out, arriving at the hospital as Alex was wheeled into the OR. Her presence in the waiting room a vigil of whispered prayers and paced footsteps. The surgery dragged on for hours, complications arising from scar tissue, and the surgeon emerged with grave news. They needed a rare blood type for transfusion amid unexpected bleeding. O negative, the universal donor, but supplies were low. Elena's heart leapt. She was O negative, a detail she'd mentioned offhand during one of their conversations about health histories. Test me now, she demanded, rolling up her sleeve as nurses hurried to confirm compatibility. It was a match, and in that sterile room, Elena donated blood that flowed directly into Alex's veins, her life force becoming his lifeline in a poetic reversal of their first encounter. As the transfusion stabilized him, the surgeons completed the procedure successfully, Alex emerging from anesthesia to the sight of Elena by his bedside, her hand clasping his with tears in her eyes. "You saved me once," she whispered, "now it's my turn." The recovery was arduous, weeks of hospital stays turning into months of rehab, but Elena stayed by his side, flying back and forth with her family's support, coordinating care and infusing his days with stories of Hope's antics and Miguel's encouragement. This act of reciprocity healed more than Alex's body. It mended the lingering voids in his soul, showing him that vulnerability could breed unbreakable connections. By fall, Alex was back on his feet, stronger in spirit, and he proposed a joint project, a public art installation in Central Park depicting their story, a bridge sculpture with intertwined hands symbolizing cycles of salvation. Elena agreed enthusiastically, and as they unveiled it in a ceremony attended by friends, family, and media, the crowd's applause echoed the profound truth that one act of kindness can ripple across years, saving lives in ways unimaginable. Alex found love again, this time with a fellow volunteer at his non-profit, and Elena's career soared to new heights with the book deal chronicling their journey. Their bond, forged in crisis and redeemed in mutual rescue, became a beacon for others, inspiring countless acts of compassion in a world often starved for hope. As the sun set over the park that day, Alex turned to Elena and said, "Who knew saving a stranger would save me too?" She smiled, replying, "Fate did, and now, we're both here because of it." What an incredible journey of fate and human connection, right? If this story touched your heart like it did mine, go ahead and like this video to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional tales that remind us of life's beautiful twists. Hit that bell icon too so you never miss out.